What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and I really hope you don't have any type of nightmares tonight after seeing the return of the Fiend that ended up happening at WWE Fastlane. We also had an awesome main event between Bryan and Roman Reigns with the involvement of Edge, alongside some other things going down, including a couple of mistakes and a couple of things WWE could have done better. So as always, we are here to talk all about it, so hit an elbow drop on the like button and let's dive right into it. And just a bit of a cheap plug, if you want to make Vince McMahon happy, I say check out the brand new Savage merch that we dropped, ECW inspired. Getting my general thoughts out of the way, overall this was a good pay-per-view because it ended up giving us some really good matches, but Fastlane always feel like a filler, and it always feels like it's one of those pay-per-view that WWE just doesn't need to give it to us before WrestleMania, because a lot of what went down could have just happened on Raw or SmackDown to make those shows better and to make the storyline and the build-up towards WrestleMania more meaningful. But as I said, there were some highlights that we need to talk about, and there were a couple of botches and mistake bookings that again WWE could have done different. No title changes for the night, which again really demonstrate to you just how much of a filler pay-per-view this is. Nonetheless, let's start off with one of the big highlights of the night. That is of course the Fiend coming back. We had a Randy Orton taking on Alexa Bliss right before the main event match. Alexa Bliss was great in all of this. She was mostly running away from Randy Orton, but setting up traps on the way. First, it was a firewall. She then caused Randy Orton to run into the ring post, went towards the outside and set up another trap. This time, we had a couple of the lights equipment and all of that almost falling right on top of Randy Orton. Then back into the ring, she brought back the fireball, which quote-unquote Randy Orton dodged according to the commentary team. He definitely didn't. Of course, this was sort of like a cinematic type of segment, so we let it pass anyways. And now with Randy Orton about to attack Alexa Bliss, out comes the Fiend from under the ring. Big fire goes up and the Fiend starts coming out of it slowly. It was great presentation. He obviously looked all melted up. It is his full attire but just all blacked out. So I love what they did with him, and he's probably gonna go back to being the regular Fiend with his regular mask and all of that. But of course it's awesome that they ended up doing this for the time being, continuing the storyline and bringing the Fiend back just as he was left burning. Alexa Bliss then went on to pin Randy Orton. So great return and a great setup for the Fiend versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Now going back to the rest of the match card, the night started off with Ali taking on Matt Riddle on the kickoff show for the United States Championship. This was a match where Matt Riddle retained the title. As typical, Ali was pissed off after the match, screaming to his Retribution members, which then leads to the rest of Retribution turning on Ali. So he is no longer the leader. Obviously, Retribution is not done, but if they were gonna do something like this, you would have thought that they would at least make it happen on the main card to put some importance to it, or at least wait until WrestleMania to make it more significant. Regardless though, it was just a matter of time before this ended up happening. Into the main card, we get Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, who end up getting defeated by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, as Baszler picked up the victory, pinning Sasha Banks. Not really a surprise here, but of course Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair could not work together, and it all ended with Bianca kind of once again pointing at the WrestleMania sign, because finally WWE remembered that these two are going to be facing each other. We get Apollo Crews taking on Big E in a really fast-paced match. It had a really hot start to it, with Big E delivering that massive spear to the outside, and then both of them just going at each other. But it ended in a very awkward finish. It was more or less a botch finish, although maybe this was what WWE was planning anyways. I feel like a double pin was what was supposed to happen, because clearly they're going to continue the storyline. Apollo Crews end up rolling up Big E. Big E ultimately turns it around and put his shoulders up so he get the victory, as Apollo Crews' shoulders were down, although we couldn't really see that because of the camera angle that we got to see. After the match, Apollo Crews went on to attack Big E. So again, it's clear that this feud is going to continue, and even if they were planning to do this as sort of double pin or type of roll-up counter for Big E, it was still a botch finish that ended up looking a bit weird. Shane McMahon was shown in the backstage. He's not able to compete tonight, and big credit to WWE for trying to explain to us why they ended up canceling Braun versus Shane McMahon. I'm glad they saving it for Mania anyways, but they still went on to give us a Braun Strowman match, which was decent, but they could have just saved it for Monday Night Raw. So basically, Shane McMahon ended up telling Elias that he's gonna be facing Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman, of course, goes on and win that match. Again, this was just a filler. WWE could have just saved this for Monday Night Raw. It was not necessary, so you kind of added an extra unnecessary thing to this pay-per-view on top of the other things that we already know were fillers anyways. We got Seth Rollins defeating Shinsuke Nakamura in very good one-on-one competition. Not a surprise here. These two are two of the great wrestlers that WWE got right now. So of course they went at it and delivered. Seth Rollins even pulling a couple of new maneuvers from his inventory, so that was good. Ending it with the curb stomp, picking up the victory. I was expecting Cesaro to get involved in this, even if it was at the end, but that didn't happen. Could have been great to continue building towards the WrestleMania match, but I guess WWE is gonna save that build towards SmackDown. Again, kind of proving that this was just another filler, even though, trust me, I am glad we got to see Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke go at it one-on-one. The next banger of a matchup that we got was Sheamus taking on Drew McIntyre. You know, every single time that these guys go at it against each other, they're always vicious, they are always so aggressive against each other, and it always turns out to be a good fight. And this was a no-holds-barred match, so of course it got extra brutal. We got the candlestick coming into play. Drew McIntyre even ended up sending Sheamus through 2 sets of the LED television that they have in the Thunderdome, causing a bit more sparks than what we got to see 2 Sundays ago. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I still love them though, so don't take the joke too serious. Anyways, we had Sheamus putting Drew McIntyre through the announce table, but in the end, Drew McIntyre won after a future shock DDT on one of the pieces of the announce table, followed by the Claymore kick. Definitely the second best match of the night. The one complaint I had about this was that WWE could have at least had Bobby Lashley come out and come face to face with Drew McIntyre. And as I mentioned before, I wish that WWE would have just made this a #1 contendership match, just to put more importance to Drew McIntyre earning that championship match opportunity again and going into WrestleMania. Good match nonetheless, but the best match was definitely the main event, Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. This was a really good match with, honestly, Daniel Bryan just taking control most of it. It felt like he was just on the offense for like 95% of the time, which is kind of weird to say when the superstar is going against Roman Reigns. Good back and forth between all of them. The big storytelling here was that Daniel Bryan was really trying to tap out Roman Reigns. The typical stuff ended up happening. Daniel Bryan goes for the running knee. He takes out the referee, so Edge, the special enforcer, needs to get involved. So he acts as the referee for 5 to 10 minutes. We then get the involvement of Jey Uso taking out Daniel Bryan and Edge. At one point, Daniel Bryan actually ends up tapping out Roman Reigns, but Edge doesn't see it and the referee is still knocked out. So Daniel Bryan doesn't really win the title. Edge finally wakes back up after getting hit by a chair from Daniel Bryan, again, all by mistake. So there was a lot of back and forth happening here. Edge gets back up. He's pissed off. He's saying that this is his opportunity. This is his championship. This is his WrestleMania match. So he gets some revenge and hits Daniel Bryan with the chair, laying him out. He then walks to the backstage as he is in rage. Finally, after 15 minutes, a new referee comes from the back. Roman Reigns go ahead and pin a already laid out Daniel Bryan, and he wins the match. And yes, Roman won the match, but as I mentioned, Daniel Bryan actually made him tap out. So now this means that Daniel Bryan has a 100% legit reason why he deserves to be in that WrestleMania match and why that match should be made a triple threat. So that's where we're headed to. It is going to be a triple threat WrestleMania main event. 100%, especially after what went down tonight. Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Which one was your favorite match tonight? And are you excited for Daniel Bryan to get inserted into that Edge versus Roman Reigns match at WrestleMania? Drop a like if you guys enjoy. I'll catch you on the next one, so stay savage.